Good morning. Welcome participants in the online short-term certificate course on vermicomposting technology. I am Professor Vishal Vaidya from Department of Zoology, Gandhi College, Kada. Today, I am going to discuss with you a very interesting and knowledgeable lecture on difference between composting and vermicomposting. What's a dark, crumbly, smells earthy, and makes a plant thrives. It could be compost or vermicompost. But do you know how they differ? Imagine you are trying to reduce a kitchen and a garden waste. You have heard about both composting and vermicomposting, but you are not sure which one to choose. Today, we will clear that up by exploring the key differences. Both compost and vermicompost are natural fertilizers that improve soil quality by recycling the organic matter. However, the processes and the outcomes vary, and understanding these differences can help you to choose the best method for your needs. By the end of this lecture, you will able to understand how composting and vermicomposting differ in the terms of the process, time and final product. Evaluate the benefits and limitation of the each method. Decide which method suits your specific environment or project. So one by one with a different aspect, I will explain you the composting difference between composting and the vermicomposting. The aspect first, that is process. The aerobic or anaerobic decomposition using bacteria and fungi in the composting, but in the vermicomposting, decomposition is with the help of only earthworms. Now, generate a significant heat in the composting, but the vermicomposting, they are not generating any significant heat. Optimal temperature is 57 to 71 degrees Celsius in the composting, but in the vermicompost 13 to 25 is a degree Celsius is a optimal degree Celsius in the vermicomposting. The moisture content is 40 to 60% in the composting, but in the vermicompost 70 to 90% moisture content is available. The aeration required regularly during the composting, but in the vermicompost worms provide natural aeration. Now the time frame for the composting is several weeks to several months, but in the vermicompost typically 2 to 3 months the vermicompost is formed. The end product of the composting is compost, that is dark, crumbly, earthy and smelling. But the vermicompost, the worm casting and nutrient rich product is formed. About the nutrient content in the composting, the rich in nutrient, ever rich in nutrient and beneficial microbes present in the vermicompost as compared to the composting. The pathogen control, high heat can kill all the pathogens in the compost, but in the vermicompost, lower heat may not kill all the pathogens. But about the ingredients, the mix of greens, that is nitrogen rich, and browns, that is carbon rich ingredients present in the compost, but in the vermicompost, organic waste suitable for the worm consumption. The suitable scale is larger in the composting, but large scale and small scale present in the vermicompost. Now, the space required more in the composting, but it less in the vermicompost. The odor control can produce odor if not managed well in the composting, less odor if properly maintained. The maintenance is regular turning and monitoring needed in the composting, but in the vermicompost, less maintenance, worms handle the aeration. The startup cost is very lower in the initial cost in the composting, higher initial cost in the vermicompost due to the purchase of worms and the beans. The compost maturity may require additional curing time for the composting, but the vermicompost ready to use immediately after the harvesting. The environmental impact reduce landfill waste and greenhouse gas emission in the composting. Also reduce landfill waste can be done indoors in the vermicompost. Ease of the use can be more labor intensive in the composting, but in vermicomposting easier for the beginners, require less physical efforts. The variety of material can handle larger and more diverse material in the composting, but in the vermicompost, limited to the material worm can digest, no meat, dairy product, or the fats in the vermicompost. The pH can vary, often slightly acidic to the natural in the compost, but generally natural pH is present, which is very good for the most plant in the vermicompost. For you, thanks once again.